Breathe in and out. Observe and be aware of that. And you can expand your mindfulness and awareness also to the sensations, whatever sensation that we experience, being aware of that. And you can expand your mindfulness and awareness also to your mind, thought, any feeling, any thoughts arises. If it does arises, be mindful and aware of that without getting involved, without entertaining that thought, that feeling, simply just observing, being aware. Once your mind is quiet and settled down, then we can try to reflect, contemplate by feeling how fortunate and lucky we are to have this precious human life. Even though there might be a lot of challenges and difficulties, problem in our life, but if we utilize properly this life has incredible potential. Incredible potential to achieve true everlasting inner peace, joy, happiness. Not only that for ourselves, but this life has potential to be able to achieve fully awakened or fully enlightened state. So we can be not only help, but to be the greatest help to all other sentient beings. Therefore, how fortunate and lucky I am to have this precious human life with incredible potential. And how fortunate, lucky I am, even more so, to be still alive. So many people or other beings that we have known in our life have passed away. They are no more in the world with us now. What we have is only the memory, relatives, friends, colleagues, friends of our relatives, friends of friends. So many of them have passed away. In most of those cases, nobody saw that was coming. Suddenly, something happens and they are no more in the world. And we could have also faced similar conditions that could take away our life. Fortunately, we are still alive. giving us more time to practice the Dharma, to work with our own mind, and to be able to be more help to others. Therefore, whatever lifespan remaining that I have, I'm going to utilize it properly and not waste so much. By engaging in Dharma practice. So that I can be more help benefit to others, and I myself can find more inner peace and inner joy. And to practice the Dharma, we have to be reminded of those practices, meditations all the time. If we don't get reminded, even something we know, we forget to apply when we need. Therefore, I'm going to listen to the talk and engage in the questions and discussions and reflect, contemplate. And if I find anything beneficial, helpful from the talk, discussions, that I'm going to try to apply and integrate in my everyday life as much as possible. Put them into the practice. May my act of coming here to listen and engage in discussion, reflection, contemplations, may all of this become cause and conditions to reduce those harmful, destructive, negative emotions. May it become cause and conditions to actualize and fully develop those beneficial, helpful, positive state of mind, such as pure realization, pure renunciations, true love, compassion, the awakening mind of bodhicitta, the wisdom, the practice of tolerance, so forth. And may it be cause and condition to achieve our highest potential, the fully awakened state. so that not only we can be help to others, but to be greatest help. And not only help to few, but to be able to be greatest help to each and every sentient beings without any bias. Unconditional. Okay. So then we do the refuge and both Siddha motivation prayer in Tibetan. Sangye Chedan Soge Chonam La Chanchu Padu Dani Kapsu Chi Dagi Jin Sogi Be Sonam Ki Dola Penche Sangye Dupa Sho Sangye Chedan Soge Chonam La Chanchu Padu Dani Kapsu Chi Dagi Jin Sogi Be Sonam Ki Dola Penche Sangye Dupa Shu Sangye Chodam Sogi Chodam La Chamchu Badu Dani Kapsu Chi Dagi Jun Sogi Be Sonam Ki Dola Penche Sangye Dupa Shu.
Can I say something quick?
Yes, please.
If anybody needs to use the bathroom, if you haven't been here before, the code is up on the door there, and they're just down the hall. And just kind of go to the left. And I thought I had one more. Just want to make sure you do that. If you get locked out of the building, 1122 will get you in. So very easy to remember. We're not worried about you stealing Buddhas. So
So yesterday we kind of discussed a little bit so what are those three principal aspects of the path that were the main subjects topic of the discussions. And yesterday we started why we need the first one, renunciations. We discussed about why we need to cultivate renunciations. And we also discussed what renunciation means, and in shortcut, renunciation means giving up attachments. And we talk about what is attachment and, the effect of attachments. And attachment to different things. Mainly as we talk of worldly concerns, we talk a little bit about that. And then to the next, how to overcome the attachment and how to develop the pure renunciations. So, and we did kind of touch a little bit. We didn't go much details, but Lama Tsongkhapa he explained, to overcome the attachment to this life. So as I mentioned from yesterday from the Sakya masters, Jigten Tapa Gyaltsen, the parting from the four attachments, where he talked about attachment this life and attachment to samsara. similarly, Lama Tsongkhapa also say same thing. And so he talk overcoming the attachment in this life and attachment to samsara, and also he breaking those two categories. In terms of overcoming the attachment in this life, then Lama Tsongkhapa explain one need to contemplate and meditate on precious human rebirth and death impermanence. So combining those two practice meditations, meditating precious human rebirth, and not only precious human rebirth, but even this life, which is so precious with so much potentials, but that life does not last forever. That our life do not last forever. That times come when we have to face death, someone that we cannot escape. And not only is something that is going to happen, not only it has happened to all the beings that have come in this world throughout the history, we can, all kinds of beings, most powerful beings, most spiritual beings, most intelligent expert beings, most richest beings, they all went through that. They all have to face the death. Even Buddha, Jesus, all those beings, even they went through that. So therefore, we are no exceptions. We also have to face that. That is fact, reality. Whether you want to talk about it or not, whether you want to think about it or not, but that is the fact, reality that we cannot escape. Fact, reality, that's something that we have to face one day. Because it's something that we have to face, we have to deal with that one day. It's better to talk about it now. Better to contemplate on that and be more prepared for that, instead of being caught up unprepared. And then when you are unprepared, you struggles dealing with that. And when that struggles, you go through a lot of pain, and not only you struggles, then it affects people around you. Your loved ones, dear ones, it is painful for them to see you struggles. Sometimes they experience more pain than the person who's dying. Because the person who's dying, they might be struggling for days, weeks, months. But people who are left behind, it can traumatize them for the rest of their life, for so many years, not being able to see that, because they have seen so much struggle, so much pain in that of someone they love so much, and that they felt helpless, that they couldn't do anything that can bother them, that can traumatize them. So therefore, it's much more reasonable and sensible to actually talk, think, contemplate, and prepare for that, so that you have prepared well. And so by preparing well, you are able to face it with much more calm, peacefulness, with less pain, less struggles. And that also gives a lot of peace to people, those who are left behind. For to them to experience and see someone they love passing away peacefully, with the dignity, with calm, and it also gives them confidence in themselves and their own death, instead of being fearful. When they experience someone loved one dying with such struggle and pain, it makes their own fear about their own life, because they think maybe I might die that way. On the other hand, when they see someone dying so peacefully calm, it gives them confidence. I could die this way. I don't have to die with so much stuff and pain. So therefore, um, meditating, contemplating on death impermanence is very helpful for preparing your own death, and not only your own death as to have a positive impact to those who are left behind. And not only we meditate that the death is absolutely that will come one day, but especially focus on that we don't know when it's coming. Uncertainty, the death is certain, but uncertainty of the death, that is the thing. It will come in 40 years, 30 years, 20 years. It will come in 10 years, 5 years. It could come in this year, this month, this week. Even though at the moment we feel no. Intellectually we think yes, but in our experience feel like I'm healthy. A reason why we feel that we have life, why we have more time, because we think, relatively I'm healthy. Age is my side. I'm not so old where I'm in the hundreds, late 90s, age in my side. We feel we live in pretty much quite safe place. I'm not in one of those places where they are bombing. You never know where the bomb is going to drop, whether in the Middle East now, or whether it's in Ukraine or Russia or some other part where you live in an environment where every day, there's dropping, and you never know when that is being dropped, when it's coming. So in that sense, someone might feel unsafe that it could drop today, maybe this. But like we live in relatively very much peaceful environment. And so because of all of that, then we feel, that is not coming soon, not today, not this week, not this month, not this year, feel I still have maybe 10 years, at least 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And when we feel it's not going to come soon, problem with that is then we keep postponing things that we feel important, such as practice of the Dharma. We keep postponing. When I'm retired, then I can focus more on practice. So you think, when I'm retired, and we don't know when we are retired, whether we can even retire, and even you retire, sometimes you become more busy. I've seen a lot of people who has more time to study and practice before retirement. After retirement, they become more busy. They have less time to come to the class, less time for the studies and practice. Even though at some time they had that wish, once I'm retired, I will have more time to focus, and it keeps. And then I've seen some others that I've known, they retired and they're also looking excited, to commit themselves more to the practice, retreat, and so forth. but then immediately health issues. And after a couple of years, no more in the world, you know. So that like that, you keep on postponing. Um, but if you contemplate, meditate, and then if you have this awareness or realization through such meditation contemplations, not only that is going to come, it could come anytime, any moment. It could come in this year. It could come this month. It could come this week. It could come today. If you have this kind of awareness or realization through such practice meditations, then you will not postpone. You will try to practice whatever meditation, whatever practice that you know, little or lot, whatever you know, you will try to apply them, try to practice as much as possible. As much as possible. If we have that awareness, we feel if you have some kind of conflict with someone, especially your loved one, dear ones, you have some resentments that you have unfinished until you feel like I have to take care of that. Instead of saying waiting for someone to start a conversation and say, I forgive you or forgive me, asking forgive me, you will start immediately yourself. You don't want to die unsolved. You would like to die, everything solved. So if you need to forgive, you started forgiving it instead of waiting for the days, weeks, months, years. If you need to ask for forgiveness, you will ask for the forgiveness now because you want to. And so, those things, important things, same as like leaving a will, you will start doing now instead of saying maybe I will do next year. Because you know I could die today and I don't want to leave things unsolved. That could be a problem for those who are left behind because they don't know what to do and there can be conflict and all of that. So by having that awareness, you take care of all these things immediately, that you need to take care of them. A lot of people, they feel that they need to do that, but again, they keep on postponing, I will do next year and next year and next year because they always feel the time is with their side. That is the problem. And then they leave behind a lot of things that has to be dealt by the siblings, friends, and that, and sometimes there is conflict and create a lot of problems for those who are left behind. So that will not be the case. One will not end up in that situation if one has awareness that I could die today. When you have that awareness, you try to do all this now. Those important things you have to do, you need to do, and you will do that. And here, especially we are talking about the practice of Dharma, then you try, you will not postpone. And when you feel, and when you have this awareness, I could die anytime, any moment, you have less craving, less wants, because if I die today or tomorrow, or I could die today, tomorrow, or next week, this month, why do I need all these things? There's no need of that, So you have less wants, less desire, except for the basic that you need, whatever, you have less desire, less wants. And that's why having a meditating, contemplating death impermanence, especially, you know, uncertainty of the Dharma. I mean, uncertainty of the time, and that having this awareness, I could die any moment. When you have that two such meditations, for sure, you have less desire, less wants, less attachments. Less clinging, grasping to the objects. And like as we can see, a lot of people when they are so close to dying, it is easy for them to let it go of things, giving to others. You know, wherever they need to, whether it is their families, friends, or is some organizations where they want to donate, give. They are able to do that, which they were not able to do before. Before, they are clinging, grasping. They cannot let it go because they think I need, maybe I might need. Not necessarily you need it, but in your mind, I have 10 years more, 20 years more, and during that time I might need it. So you started hoarding it. A lot of people who hoard, that is the reason. Why? Oh, I might need it in those 20 years. Also some Tibetan, at the very beginning when they came to India. And because they were hoping at that time, they thought that they were just there for a short time and they will be able to go back to their home, you know. Um, and then some of them, hoarding because they think they will need it during that times. Otherwise, they would not need it, but they wouldn't. And so something like that, when you think that you have that and then might minor, and then you started to hoard. And so that is that, the moment you know that you are close to death, there isn't too much time for some people when they are in bed. And when the doctors are giving them only very limited time, and they know it is coming very soon, and you can see they can let it go. Easy. Easy to let it go, not have the strong clinging grasping they had before. Because why? How is that they are able to let it go now easily where they couldn't let it go before? Is because now they have this understanding. I don't have a lot of time on my side. And there's no point of holding on them. There's no point of holding on them, grasping with them. Instead, it can be useful for someone to give. And that will give you a small example of how you have this awareness realizations. You have less clinging, grasping, and less attachments. That is why the meditation did implement very powerful, powerful tools or practice to reduce and overcome attachments. Um, Also, I've read some stories of certain individuals who have near-death experiences, and they came out of that near-death experience and how it changed their life, their perspective about life, and how it changed them to live more simple life, very different from their, with a less attachment, less desire, because they experience so closely with that, so close, you know, because they were so close, you know, so close, so they experience that. And that has a profound, very profound effect on their life. many of them change their whole perspective of life, in a positive way. So through such meditations, when you have that realizations, that awareness through such meditations, it has same effect or more powerful effect than someone who had near death experience, or like someone who have on the bed, who, as I give example before, someone who is close to death. And so it becomes even more powerful than that. That is why in Buddhism talks about death a lot. A lot of time people doesn't understand, But when you talk more about that, you become less fear of that. The more you think about it, you become less fear of that. And it's not going to make your life, when you have not done the meditation and practice yourself, when you just hear, sometimes people are misunderstanding, oh, you talk about suffering, you talk about death. It seems your life is going to be very miserable, not fun, cool, happy. But actually the opposite is the opposite. Look at Dalai Lama. He said he meditate on death impermanent or death dissolution 6 times, 7 times a day. You go to different daily sadhana. With each sadhana, they go through death process and he meditate and go through all of that every day, But he's one of the most joyful, happy person in the world. And you can see that in all others great practitioners, masters, So, okay. So that is the main, and of course there are other meditations, we get attached to something because we see there's, or we feel, or we see there's some positive quality in that we're attached to, in that object. The more you think, contemplate, more positive qualities in that, the more attachment, stronger attachment. Why I didn't, why I need that, why that might make my life convenient, why that might make my life easier, why that might make my happier, all of that. The more you think, the more strong attachment intensify, the more stronger attachment. To reduce that, another meditations, try all the the disadvantage of having that object. At the moment, you are thinking only the advantage of that object, the benefit of that object. Everything there's pro and con. You are only thinking one. When you only think of pro, then you have attachment. You so con. If you have that, what are the other things that? And when you think, then you start. Oh, on one hand it's good, but another time it's not so good. Do you get it? So then your attachment becomes less. Before you feel like I really need it, I really want it, and after some time, I'm not so sure. Do I really need it? Do I really want it? Do I really? It could make my life easier in one way, but it could make my life more complicated in another way. Do you get it? You started to see both sides, and so you have. At the moment when you attachment, we only see one side, and the more you just think on one side, the more you feel like, oh, it's going to make my life so happier, easier. Oh. But if you start to think the complication it could bring, then your mind started to think, do I really want? Do I really need it? And with that, then your desire, your attachment become less to that object. So again, that is, you know, another meditation practice one can apply, you know. And especially when there is strong attachment, you focus more on the disadvantage of having that objects instead of focusing on advantage of having that objects, you know. Instead of thinking what it could make better, you focus more on what it could make more complicating and more problematic. And when we are able to do that, and when you feel, then again, you know, your attachment can be reduced. And then Lama Tsongkhapa explained in terms of dealing with the attachment to the samsara, then he advised to meditate on karma, the law of cause and effect, and then the nature of the suffering nature of the samsara. The suffering nature of samsara. Maybe at the moment we might think, oh, you know, we might not be attached to that, but you might be attachment to the idea of a rebirth or life, such as when you don't get sick, you don't age, you know, you don't have all the conflict that we have in our life, up and down. If there is such life, even though I'm not attached to this life because this life is not easy, you know, challenges, difficulties. But if there is something like that, I would like to have that, you know. So you can still be attached in such, for example, you know, a certain life of the concept of God life, demigod, God, you know, where they don't have suffering like us, you know, where they have a lot of lifespans, longer lifespan, not some like sickness like us, you know, aging like us, and all of that. So we might be attached to that, such as certain high rebirth. But again, here is as long as you're in samsara, as long as you're in samsara, it's still suffering. Even you don't have to, even you don't get sick, even you don't get agings and all this, you know, as long as your life is not free from the delusion and karma, that itself is a suffering. When you are prisoner of the delusion karma, that itself is suffering. Even no one torture you in prison, and you are served with the food and everything, treated you well, still you have no freedom, control. And that itself, you don't want to be in such prison, even if you are not tortured, even you are treated quite well. You are served well food, clothing, everything, but you have no control. They decide, the prison decide what you should do today, where you should go. You can't just, I want to rest today. Wherever they send that itself, and therefore that's why you don't want to be in even such prison. Being under the control of someone completely, where you have no control on yourself, that is suffering. And that is what, as long as you're in samsara, you are the prisoner of your own delusion and your karma. And so you don't know what is going to happen. You have no control. And that is, once you realize that, once you have understanding and once you have a realization of that, then we don't get attached to such, even though you might be the most richest person in the world, even you could live 400 years, 500 years without aging. Even you might have good health for that long years and richest, more powerful persons in the world, but still, you will not still be so attached to even such being, because you understand even that, even though you are more powerful, even though you are more rich, even though you are more handsome, beautiful, even though all of that, but still you have no control on your own existence, your own life. It's controlled by the karma and the delusions. Especially, even you might have all of that, if your mind is not controlled and you have the delusions, it doesn't mean happiness. Sometimes some of those rich people experience much more pain than someone who has very little. On emotional level, on mental level, even if sometimes you have so much, still, if you have still the delusions such as anger, such as attachment, you are billionaire, you are still not happy, you want to be a trillionaire. And you become trillionaire and still you are not happy, you want to be zillionaire. And even you become zillionaire, still you are not happy. So your mind is still, mentality is poor mentality. Why? Because you never feel there's enough. You never feel enough. You always feel, I want more, more, more. And that is what the attachment does. That is the attachment, craving, wanting more and better all the time. Never feeling satisfied and content, saying that's enough. I'm happy with that. Never feel that. Always, I need more. I need more. I need better. That mentality. And so therefore, no matter how much you have, you are still miserable. You are still miserable on mental level. You're still miserable, unhappy. And when you have these delusions, such as, resentment, anger, grudges, it's painful, horrible, especially, when you have problem with that, rages, anger, everything just seems fine, and suddenly something tickle you, and then done. You lose your mind, and you become someone else, totally different persons. Almost like you couldn't recognize that person's with that person behavior and actions, the violent behavior action, someone who seems very kind, compassionate, caring, and that moment, totally opposite. And you can't even recognize that person. Is that the same person that I know him before? And that person changed because of that particular emotions, such as anger, rage, and that overtook that person had no control over that, overwhelmed by that, and then he or she totally changed, and then totally destroy their peace, joy, and happiness, and then it also destroy other peace and joy, happiness of everyone around that person. This is a hell. It's a hell. You know, you don't have to go somewhere else to experience hell. That itself is inner hell, mental hell. That is a suffering. You know? So therefore, that is what it is. As long as you are in samsara, being samsara means being under the control of the delusion and karma. So as long as you are under the control of karma and delusion, as you are the prisoner of the delusion and karma, doesn't matter where you are in any of the six realms, what kind of your situations, doesn't matter, you are still not free from the sufferings. You might be free from external discomfort, suffering, but still you are not free from internal suffering of those delusions, those affected emotions. Once you realize that with your experience through meditations, then you will not be attached to any of those. There's no attachment to any of the samsaric beings or the realms, any of the realms in the samsara. And so that is through one can develop that through meditations on, as Lama Tsongkhapa advised, on the suffering nature of samsara and the law of cause and effect karma. And especially, you know, like when you meditate on sufferings, you know, as you have studied the Lamrim, you know, there are many different ways of meditating, understanding from the point of view of 8 sufferings, 6 suffering, you know, 8 different kinds of suffering. You can meditate on that, or there are 6 different ways of thinking of, or 3 sufferings: the suffering of pain, suffering of change, suffering of all pervasive. And especially, it is easy for us to understand the suffering of pain as a suffering, but it's much more difficult to understand suffering of change as a suffering, which we talk a little bit today. And it's much more difficult to understand the suffering of all-pervasive as a suffering. And the suffering of all-pervasive is that is what I'm talking about, that when you are prisoner of your own delusion karma, when you have no control over your own mind, because your mind is controlled by the delusions. We are controlled by our mind, and our mind is controlled by the delusions. And when your mind is overwhelmed, controlled by delusions and the karma, and when you have no control over that, and when you are the prisoner, slave of that, that itself is a suffering. Suffering here doesn't have to be physical pain or even emotional pain in that way. Just being the slave and prisoner of those delusion karma itself. And so once you understand, then, you know, as long as you are the slave or prisoner of that delusion karma, no matter what beings, what realms, you are not attached with the experience of such beings. And so then, you know, you don't get attached to any of the samsara. And, you know, not only you don't get attached to this life, but also samsara in general, and through such meditation and practice. And that is where we try to focus when you try to meditate on the sufferings, especially focusing on this all-pervasive sufferings. Because suffering of pain, I think we don't, even without medicine so much, you know, we don't get attached to that. And we can we can have a non-attachment and renounce that, not wanting that. But when it comes to suffering change and suffering all purpose, that's where it's more difficult for us to understand there as a suffering, something unwanted, something undesirable. Because at the moment it feels they are desirable, something we want, we're attached to them, because we haven't really understood that in the nature of suffering. And so that is where meditation, the focus should be. And once we are successful with such practice meditation, then once you have this experiential experience, or what we call realizations, strong awareness, that as long as you're in samsara, no matter where you are, no matter who you are not free from the suffering. You are still in suffering, you are still in samsara, you are still prisoner and slave of the delusion karma. Once you really understand deeply, then you don't get attached to that. And then you are able to let go of attachment to samsara. And when you have no more attachment to samsara, then you can develop pure renunciations. The strong wish to turn away your mind from the samsara towards liberations. That's what renunciation is. The wish to turn away your mind or yourself from the being attached to samsara or being in samsara, but instead the wish to free from the samsara, wish to liberate from the samsara, that comes very strongly. And, maybe we can have a stop for 10 minutes if you want to use the restroom, grab something to drink, and maybe give a little rest to your mind. Yeah.
For some reason, it didn't record any of that.
So
Too bad.
Yeah, well, it's good that he didn't record, otherwise he might be coming after me. I'm joking. But in general, that is how and it's so unforgiving that someone made a mistake when they are young, and still people can be so unforgiving. Even they might have moved on, they have changed it, but still, when they find out something they did bad in the past, I feel kind of sad to see that part. I might have made a mistake, but if I'm not making a mistake now, and if I'm a good person now, I shouldn't be kind of criticized and harsh. That's something that I did 20 years ago, 30 years ago. But especially that is what we see now. It is a lot, especially if you're in a public figure when they screw you and that. Anyway, so it's just side talk. More if I was talking more about being too critical and too harsh. Yeah. Yes, please.
What can I tell myself, like, in the moment when I'm feeling attached? Like, if I'm here or if I'm doing meditation, I can understand it and I want to not be attached. If I'm just out in the world doing things, I kind of forget that, and I just want that thing.
Well, as you mentioned, when you get attached to that, you remind yourself: is this really do I really need it? Is going to make my life happier, better? Is it really going to give me real happiness or joy, or is it just a deceptive? So if you can kind of remind yourself to think, contemplate in that way, instead of just rushing it, at the moment we tend to just not give the space. I think that's learning to give space, before we take the actions or even for any thoughts to comes, to be able to contemplate and reason and say, is that what really I need? Is that really helpful, beneficial? Is it something I need to really do it? Is it something that it will really give me really happiness? Or is it just kind of, so I think to be able to do that, to be able to have that ability to do that, I think reminding yourself to do that at the very beginning, sometimes we are able to do, sometimes we forget. But if you keep on, whenever you remember, keep on doing, then it slowly, you create some kind of habit pattern into doing that. It's just like anything, other physical thing too. Like one of the experience I shared is when we were young, of course, we never had brush. Or when I'm growing in village, we didn't brush because there was no toothbrush. We never clean up our teeth. Then I went to monastery when I was 8, and it is in the city, and so we had a brush. And but when we were young, we were taught to brush in the morning. So and also there, we brush. So I brushed only one time most of my life, and never had also access to dentist. After coming these countries, I went to see the dentist, and how often you brush? One time, No, you have to brush at least 2 times, if not 3 times, evening and mornings. So at the very beginning, when I was trying to brush in the evening, I forget, you know. Some days I remember, some days I forget. When I remember, I brush. When I forget it. But and then slowly, you become more and more aware of that you need to brush. And slowly, now I don't have to remind myself. I just brush no matter where I am, and it become a habit, and kind of and same thing this is more physical things, but that same thing, you learn to kind of, before you allow your mind to just rush, you try to learn to kind of stop and then reflect, contemplate, and think. And so I think if you when we, again, as I mentioned at the very beginnings, we might not be able to do all the time. Some days we are able to do, some days we are unable to do, but not give up, continue to do, and then that become kind of habit in your mind, and then it will start doing that. Yeah. Any others?
I do have a question.
Yes,
You
please.
talked about death. If we have dealing with our family members, maybe that are aged, or just, I guess, dealing with family members in general who aren't on the path. You talked about someone can die in a way that causes suffering for close ones. If you're one of those close ones, how would you recommend practicing with that situation? Not the person who's dying, but the person the family member
Who has experience
is going through that.
Someone who has observed someone who died very painfully.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, we have to, one thing, remind ourselves that just because we experience someone who died with such a pain and struggles, that doesn't mean that everyone has to die with that struggle and pain. I think that's one thing that we have to remind ourselves. Not everyone's go through that. And because I think if we just, sometimes, as I mentioned before, it can create a fear in ourselves, our own death, because just reminding ourselves, because so reminding ourselves and reading or hearing or listening, how there are so many people who have been able to die calm, peacefully. So that doesn't has to be um, painful. That is one thing. Indeed, reminding ourselves so that we don't become too fearful of our own death, thinking that um, my death will be painful or that. That's one thing. And second thing, that we try to dedicate and even though sometimes we are unable to help physically for someone who is going through such pain and struggle, if sometimes we are unable to make their comfortable, as much even though we want to help them, sometimes we are unable to help them, but at least we can try to keep them in our practice and meditations and dedicate our virtues, whatever virtues, whatever merit, whatever positive energy that we create through meditation practice and other form of virtues, that we dedicate for them to find peace. And from Buddhist point of view, even higher birth or, calm and peaceful, and for them to meet the path and actualize the path in their heart, in their mind. And then, another way of thinking, what we can do is we can also think, because the family members who have gone through a lot of challenges and difficulties, even though it was so painful, even though it was so painful to see that they go through so much pain, but also from karmic point of view, by them having gone through all this pain and suffering in that moment, they have cleared and purified so much negative karma that they don't have to deal again in the future. So in a way, it wasn't necessarily always bad. It is bad in a sense they struggled so much and there was so much pain. But if you look from another point of view, because of having gone through all this pain, they have cleared and purified of so much negative karma that they don't carry on, that they don't have the experience in the futures. So with that, again, if you contemplate meditation, that can give you some kind of comfort, that they did experience pain at that point, but because they have cleared all this, they don't have carry all this negative karma, and so they experience in the futures. So again, maybe that might be another way of dealing with that. Yeah. Okay. Then so coming to the second path, the path of bodhicitta. Bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, mind of awakening, that is English translations. Bodhicitta is a Sanskrit term. Bodhi means enlightenment. Chitta means the mind of enlightenment, mind of awakening. And it is a aspirations or a wish to actualize our highest potential, the fully awakened state, fully enlightened state. That is induced by great compassions, wanting to be greatest help, benefit to others, wanting to liberate all sentient beings from all their suffering, cause of suffering, wanting to lead them to not only temporary happiness, but ultimate happiness. With that, driven by or induced by such love and compassions, in order to do that, then I must achieve my highest potential, the fully awakened state. So the aspiration, the wish to achieve that fully enlightened state, in order to liberate all sentient beings from all their suffering, cause of suffering, and to lead them to ultimate happiness, induce or driven by the true love and compassion is what we call bodhicitta mind, or the awakened mind. Okay. So for a bodhisattvas practitioners or Mahayana practitioner or the bodhisattvas practitioners or those who are inclined to the bodhisattva path, Mahayana path, their ultimate spiritual goal is to achieve fully awakened state, fully enlightened state. And even the reason to achieve fully awakened state or fully enlightened state is in order to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering, cause of suffering. That is the only reason. Not because you want to be enlightened for yourself. But in order to be in order to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering and live in the ultimate heaven. So that is the ultimate goal for the so without the bodhicitta mind, there's no way one can achieve that. So therefore, again, coming to the, so that's first we talked about bodhicitta mind. And so then why we need to cultivate the bodhicitta mind. And as Lama Tsongkhapa explained, even if you have renunciations, but if you don't have bodhicitta mind, then even you engage in the path, into practice, it can only lead you to the, without the bodhicitta mind, it doesn't become cause to fully enlightenment. It doesn't lead to fully enlightened state. It can only lead you to individual liberations. It can only lead you to individual liberations or individual nirvana, but it cannot lead you to fully enlightenment. It does not, whatever practice you do with that intentions motivated by renunciation, but non-bodhisittas, even you engage in practice of meditations, generosity, moral discipline, patience, whatever form of practice you do, they all become cause of liberation, individual liberation, but not cause of fully enlightenment. And in order to become cause of full enlightenment, then motivation should be bodhicitta mind. And so therefore you need to generate bodhicitta mind. Okay. In order to achieve your ultimate spiritual goal, to achieve fully enlightenment, awakened state. And as Shantideva explained, as His Holiness Lama explained, as Kunu Lama Rinpoche, one of the teachers of Dalai Lama, who practiced bodhicitta his whole life as a wanderer, and he was a lay practitioner. And as there is a text of book he wrote, and it's reading his experience of every day, to practice of bodhicitta. And as is mentioned in those, those who have practiced, you need the bodhicitta mind for your own happiness. You need the bodhicitta mind for the happiness of others. If you want to help benefit yourself, practice bodhicitta mind. If you want to benefit others, practice bodhicitta mind. Bodhicitta mind give you temporary happiness and ultimate happiness. So if you want temporary happiness, ultimate happiness, practice the bodhicitta mind. It's the bodhicitta mind, when you feel low, when someone feel low, when their mind feel low, practice bodhicitta, that will uplift your mind. When you feel lazy, practice bodhicitta, that will give you enthusiasm. It's like, you are lazy, and then like a mother who has strong compassion for a child. If you see the child in a problem, they will not be lazy. They will immediately get up and try to protect the child from the problem that they are getting in. It will not allow them to be lazy because of their compassions. Same way, because of your bodhicitta mind, it gives you enthusiasm. And so it, instead of being lazy. When you feel arrogant and, delusion of pride, practice bodhicitta. That will help you to be more grounded. Practice humility and more grounded, And so, as the Katamba master says, if you want to purify, practice bodhicitta mind. If you want to accumulate merit, virtues, practice bodhicitta mind. So therefore, that is why we need to practice the bodhicitta mind. Bodhicitta mind is the source of your happiness, source of happiness for others, source of temporary happiness while in the samsara, and the source of ultimate happiness of fully enlightenment, And it's most powerful way to accumulate merit and virtues that we need to achieve enlightenment. And it's the most powerful way to also purify the obstacles, purify the negative energy, negative karma, which also we need to, And so therefore, and the bodhicitta mind is the very heart of the Buddha's teachings. Buddha's teachings and practice. The very heart of the Buddha's teachings is the bodhicitta mind. All other practices, the renunciations, or from Lamrim point of view, the teachings or the practice of middle scope and small scope, they all are geared towards the bodhicitta mind. They are like preliminary foundational practice to actualize the actual practice, that is the bodhicitta mind. So we can understand from the whole Lamrim, the very heart of the Lamrim practice is the bodhicitta. The middle and small scope practice as a preliminary for bodhicitta, and other practices such as six perfections are as like the precept or the advice of bodhicitta. So, but the main is the bodhicitta. The heart is the bodhicitta, and so therefore, again, that's why we need to develop bodhicitta mind. Reason to develop bodhicitta mind. So, and if you look, some of the master that we have encountered in our life, such as Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa, Kyabje Lama Zopa, and others. They have so much energy, even and you always wonder where did the energy come from, They don't seem to do a lot of exercise and all this, boost drinkings, drink, to get energy and boost and all of that. but they have so much energy. I cannot keep up. You know, I cannot even keep up 1 week, 2 week with Lama Salva Rinpoche. You know, when he comes after 2 weeks of being around him or 1 week, you get exhausted after he leave. You have to rest few days because it's non-stop, day and night. And he will check Dalai Lama's schedules. So busy, teaching immediately, meeting while he's meeting and discussing, while he's eating, drinking, one after another, and all the time. And how do they manage? You know, where did the energy? It comes from Bodhicitta mind. It comes from Bodhicitta mind. The parent have that kind of energy when they are taking care of the child when they are very young. You know, newly born child, parent cannot sleep well. 2 hours, every 2-3 hours, they have to get up. You know, they had to get up, crying, you know, whatever you need to do, cleaning, changing. Every 2-3 hours, you go to your job. Every 2-3 hours, you can't sleep well for a few years. They have the energy to take care of that, do that. The reason is their incredible affections, compassions for the child. If they don't have that, they will be so upset and they will not get in the middle of that. They wouldn't care, you know. But still, they are able to do that with all energy because of their affection, the care, love, compassion for the child. Similarly, that is where when someone has Bodhicitta mind, not only when you have such a strong affection, love, compassion, not only on mental level, even physical level, you have more energy. You are able to do more than you think you can do, you know. And that is where their energy come from. You know, their energy come from because of such compassion and love and Bodhicitta mind. Mm, so yeah. So that is why we need to cultivate the Bodhicitta mind. And next, how to cultivate the Bodhicitta mind? How to do cultivate the Bodhicitta mind? One thing very unique of Buddhism, even though every spiritual path religion has their own uniqueness and something to offer and help benefit others. But one of the uniqueness of Buddhism is techniques. In other spiritual path, they all talk about love, compassions, that one need to love your neighbors or others. You need to develop compassions, all of that, but they don't explain how to develop that love, how to develop that compassion. It only says you need to develop compassion, you need to have love, compassions, but they don't explain how. And in Buddhism, that is the unique thing is there is a technique, meditations, how you can use certain meditation technique to cultivate and develop those such as true love, compassion, bodhicitta mind, and how to maintain, how to develop, improve that. And even someone is born without so much compassion. Of course, you can see some people naturally more compassion. Some people naturally by born, they are not so compassionate. But even someone is not born naturally with compassion, they can still develop the compassion, love, and bodhicitta mind through such meditation techniques. And it has been proved by research of nowadays, there's enough research, to say that you can develop those mm, emotions or state of mind through meditations. Mm. So how to develop that, and then in the Lamrim teachings, classically there are two techniques of meditations. One, what we call the method of equalizing and exchanging self with others. And the other one, what we call the method of 7 point of cause and effect. And then Lama Tsongkhapa kind of combine those two methods and then make it, 13 points, 7 points. So again, classically from that has come through, Buddha Shakyamuni, and from the Buddha Shakyamuni to Manjushri and Nagarjuna, and then Shantideva, there is one particular method that was passed, equalizing exchanging sex with others, that particular method. And then there is another method, 7 point of cause and effect, passed through Buddha Shakyamuni to Maitreya, Asangas, and then finally Adisha, and then Adisha brought into Tibet, and then both methods, so there are two methods. And it is, you can apply and practice any of the method, and by practicing any of the method, one can develop Bodhicitta mind. But to be able to utilize this particular method of 7 point of cause and effect, then you need to have much more understanding and belief and acceptance of past and future life. If you don't have understanding, acceptance, and belief in past and future life, then you wouldn't be able to use this particular method of 7 point of cause and effect, which we will talk. Because the first point in that 7 point of cause and effect is recognizing all sentient beings has been our mother, kind mother. That is the first point. And that recognizing every sentient being as your most kind mother from the many past lifetime, not everyone is my mother in this life. Okay. But they have been my mothers in the many past lives, many times, and so you have to have that understanding to make sense of these meditations. And so if you don't have understanding, acceptance, and belief in past and future life, then you cannot see how everyone has been your mother. You are stuck there. You are stuck with the first point in that meditation. If you are stuck with that first point, then you cannot go to the next point, that is, remember the kindness of the mother. But for someone who have understanding, acceptance, believe in past and future life strongly, then this method can be extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. And for the other method, equalizing exchanging self with others, you don't need to have this understanding, acceptance, believe past and future life to use that method, utilize that method, and to develop love, compassion, bodhicitta by using that particular method. So I don't know which method we should discuss. Maybe we will discuss on equalizing exchange self with others a little bit, and then maybe I might just touch on the other without going much details. Because I think I find in the West, a lot of people still, even Dharma practitioners, there still struggles with having convictions of past and future lives and all of that, you know. So if you struggle with that, then it is hard to have realizations based on that, you know, by using that. So maybe for the Westerners, maybe equalizing, exchanging self with others might be more effective and more stronger and more suitable, let's say. But of course, for someone who have no doubt, who have conviction in that, then that other can be extremely powerful too. Okay, so we'll have a lunch break, and we meet at 1. Yeah. At what?
At 1. Yeah. 1.
Yeah. Okay. Sangjo Semjo Rinpoche,
Okay,
Maki
Maki
Mana
Mana,
Kyoche, Kyawa Nyamba Mebaya, Tonde Konto Kyawa. Okay. See you at 1.
Okay, there we go.
So welcome back. And so this morning we discussed a little bit about how to cultivate the renunciations and the measurement of having actualized renounced mind. And then we just discuss about the awakening mind of the bodhicitta, why we need to cultivate that mind. And then next is how to cultivate that awakening mind of the bodhicitta. And as I mentioned this morning, there are 2 meditations, different meditation technique. And I'm going to talk about one particular meditation technique, which is known as equalizing, exchanging self with others technique. Whichever technique that you use to cultivate the bodhicitta mind or awakening mind, first we start with the meditations on equanimity. If our mind is not equanimity, and if we have discriminating mind, feeling very close to someone and feeling dislike and distant to others, then it is hard to develop true love, compassion on everyone equally. You know, and that is what happens to us at the moment. You know, even though we can feel compassion on somebody, we cannot feel compassion on someone. Even though we can feel, you know, affection, a sense of concern and love for some, but we struggle to feel for everyone, and we struggle to those whom we dislike for whatever reasons, different reasons. You know, someone You dislike someone you hate, so hard, it's hard to feel compassion. So first you need to have the foundations of equanimity, feeling kind of same for all. Um, so, and there are many different meditations, different way of analyzing and meditating on equanimity, So again, when we practice the equanimity, we try to first imagine 3 different categories of people in our life. Someone, a stranger that you saw just while you are walking. To that person, you can feel equanimity. You don't have strong attachment or strong liking, nor you don't have strong dislike and hatred or aversion to that. And then also you can imagine someone who is close to you, where you have a strong attachment. And then you next to that person, the next side you visualize someone you dislike very much, someone you dislike, whether you have anger, hatred, or resentment or not, but someone you dislike. And then in meditation, what you do is you allow your natural feeling to arise. Those 3 people, how do you you don't have to create anything. You just check and allow the natural feeling that you have towards them. If you think of that person, for the one person you feel strongly connected attachments. Others you feel kind of aversion, dislike. The other person you don't feel attachment nor you dislike or aversions. So first is just allow natural feeling to arise. See how you feel with those 3 individuals, how you feel differently. Second step is then you try to analyze and see, why do you feel differently? Why do you feel so differently with those 3 people? Why do you feel attachment to one? Why do you feel so much disliking and aversion to the others? And someone you don't feel either that way, but more kind of equanimity. So first you allow to have the natural feelings. You are not trying to create those feelings. You just make the space for those feelings to arise naturally, normally. And then just recognizing those different feelings, being aware and recognizing how you feel differently to those 3 different people. And next step of meditation, why do I feel so differently? So that is the way you analyze, why do I feel so differently? And then you might come with many different reasons, oh, this person is connected to me. This person has been very kind and nice, loving, caring, understanding. He or she has helped me in the past, this and that, or he or she is being very supportive now, or they have been supportive in the past, could be supportive in the future. So we have different reasons why we feel that way. We're biologically related or whatever, maybe different reasons. Or he or she was very supportive to my friends, my parents, my families. So different reasons we can come with. And with the other person which we dislike, whether we have hatred or not, but someone you dislike, you might have aversions. And then again, you try, why do I feel that way? Why do I feel that way? Why do I feel that way? Again, we have reasons, maybe he or she was hurt me, harm me in the the past, one time, many times. He or she make my life miserable, you know, made it hard, difficult, or not directly to me, but he or she was very nasty or not good to my parent, my siblings, my friends, my families, or he or she was not, seems very mean, cruel, unkind, bullying, whatever different reasons that we feel. So first, allow those natural feelings to arise to those three individuals. Recognize that, be aware, and then next, you caution yourself, why do I feel that way? And in your mind have reasons why I feel this way, that. And next step is analyzing, is that the case all the time? Maybe he or she might have been not supportive. First of all, sometimes it's just misunderstanding. Not all the time, but sometimes miscommunication, misunderstanding. There's nothing more than that. Someone will feel bad, negative about someone, not fully understanding. And sometimes, so when you understand, it was just pure, not fully understanding, misunderstanding, miscommunication. It's easy not to feel, it is easy to let it go feeling so negative and bad about that person. So just by that understanding, your feeling of strong dislike, aversion, anger, whatever that is, can be reduced to some level the moment you understand there's nothing more than just pure misunderstanding, miscommunications. And sometimes maybe, maybe that might not be just pure miscommunication, misunderstanding. Maybe they did contribute something to hurt and harm. Whether there's the intention to do that or not, that is another thing. Sometimes we get hurt and harmed, not because the person has the intention to do that, but just because of their personality, Some people have a certain way of talking, certain way of doing things, which you don't like. It is not that they want to hurt or harm someone. They're no intention, but that is who they are. They have this kind of personality. Just the way they talk, the way their attitude, everything. But again, if you understand, there's nothing more than this is he or she. It doesn't mean he or she is a bad person or mean or unkind. It's just his way of doing things, his way of talking, his way of walking, his way of doing. Again, once you understand that, again, it can be reduced because you don't really feel that he or she has such a strong negative intention to hurt and harm someone, even without that intention, people get hurt and harmed in that way. And even they have a hurt and harm, again, we can think, in so many different ways. One is due to our karmic magnet that pull them into this particular actions and behavior that hurt us. It's like the wind. The wind have no intention to hurt and harm. When wind comes, there's a tree which is not strong rooted or rotten something, and it falls and hits someone. Similarly, due to our karmic magnet wind or magnet of wind, it kind of pull that person to engage into that actions, and then we receive that hurt and harm. Actually, is our karmic magnet that's fooling that person. You know, it's like someone doesn't want to get involved, but they are forced to get involved. Do you get it? They are being forced to get involved by why? Your karmic magnet is being the metal being pulled it. So from that understanding karma, then again, we don't totally blame everything, the hurt, harm to that person. And when instead kind of understanding, accepting from the karmic point of view, taking responsibility to a certain degree, and then again, we don't have, once you do that, then you don't feel so strong dislike and aversion and anger to that person. No. So again, that is one way of contemplating, meditating. Others is, you know, even we don't talk from karmic point of view, even we don't think of karmic magnet fooling them into that situations. But again, you know, if someone has hurt someone, someone has harmed someone, yourself, your family, friends, or anyone, it's because of they are overwhelmed by one of the afflictive emotion in that moment. It's not that they have total control, and despite all total control, they decided to hurt someone. It is like sometimes they don't have control. They, in that moment, they were controlled, overwhelmed by one of those afflictive emotions. Sometimes it could be anger. In that moment, due to certain conditions, the anger overpowered that person, overwhelmed that person, and that person becomes someone else. Not the normal person in that moment. Not a normal kind person. He or she become very violent and aggressive in that moment. The reason why he or she become very violent and aggressive in that moment is because in that moment he or she lost the control. He or she lost the control to their, such as anger. Sometimes not is anger, sometimes is jealousy, sometimes is misunderstanding, ignorance, you know, and it could be any of those different applicable emotions. And when we understand that, then again, is you can feel, instead of anger, you might feel compassion. As in the main teaching, it says, you know, understanding like that person has been possessed by another being, spirit or something, is being possessed by one of those negative emotions. That means he or she has no control. Or is like someone who have mental health problems. And when someone, their loved ones, doctor knows when they're trying to help them, instead of responding positive, sometimes they can respond very negatively. Shoutings, yellings, throwing things, saying harsh, cursing, all kind of this. And he or she does that because that is mentally ill, you know, because they are ill. And when, whether it's family, whether it's the doctor knows, when they understand that is their medical problem, medical issues, even when they do that, they don't take it personal and they don't get so much hurt and upset and angry. Instead, they feel compassion. How can I help him or she to be free from that illness, how can I find a way? How can I help? What are the there that I can be helpful for him to, he or she to recover from that illness because it's such painful. Same way we try to see when someone is delusions, overpower delusion, over same thing. Same thing. So instead of dislike anger, one can feel compassion. So through that, then you try to, reduce the level of dislike and anger. And the others with the attachment, why we're attachment, we talked this morning, how we can reduce the attachments with different meditation practice that we talked about this morning. So with the less attachments and less anger to some and less attachment to some, so your mind is more, unbiased, undiscriminating, not impartial, and through that, then you develop more kind of equanimity, just as you can feel equanimity, neither attachment nor anger to the stranger, same way you try to feel same feeling to others, kind of equal, not being so attached, not so being have strong dislike and anger. And again, we can think from one point of view, from their point of view, all these three people want to be happy and do not want suffering from their point of view. Everyone is trying to be happy and not to suffer. That is what they want, and everyone's trying to be happy. And everyone's trying to protect their happiness and avoid suffering. That's all they want. They might have different idea, view how to do that, but that is what they want from their point of view. And from that understanding, then you try to, they all are same and equal in that way. So therefore you shouldn't be discriminating and being so partial in that way. Instead, you should try to help them all to have happiness and protect their happiness and avoid or protect from the sufferings. And with that state of mind, you try to feel same, equal to all of them. Another way of contemplating and, is someone who has been supportive in the past or who is supportive now, but they can become my enemy in the future. Someone who is hurtful and harmful now, they can be someone who is very supportive in the future. There's no guarantee. And we have seen that in our life already so many times. There are people in our life where we're very close at one time, supportive to each other, very close. Now our relation is different. Some of them are probably someone you dislike most. At one time, they were the one who you're very closest, and now some of them are maybe someone your most disliked person, someone you hate, even. Or if not, some of them they are just like a stranger now. You don't have any feeling for them, bad nor bad, good feelings. They have become a stranger in your life now, from being very good friends, very close, to either some of them have become more like strangers, some of them become an object of our dislike, even anger. It is in our life, we have seen in the life of people around us. And same thing, there are certain peoples, and also in our life at the very beginning, we didn't like that person's, maybe that person's behavior, actions, or personalities. But after some time, we get to know them better, and somehow it changes. Now we started to like them, and also they are supportive, and we started to support each other, have concern for each other, and close. So enemy can become stranger or friend. Friend can become enemy and strangers. Stranger can become friend and enemies. That is the fact, reality of the life, impermanence. Anything can change due to certain cause and conditions. Nothing is permanent. The friend is not always going to be friend. Enemy is not going to be always enemy. Stranger is not always going to be strangers. They all can change anytime, small changes. With that understanding, therefore, since all this, everyone can become your friend, everyone can be your stranger, everyone can, so there's no reason for you to treat them so biased way in that way, so partial and so biased, so negative in such a way. And through that, again, allow you allow your mind to feel more equanimity to all of them. And then if you talk from many lifetimes, everyone has become your enemy so many times. The very friends that who are very close to you, they have been some of the worst enemy to you in the past. Some of the worst enemy that you have now have been some of the most kind friend, family in the past. And stranger has been also, everyone has been friends, close in the past, as well as they have been enemy, as well as they have been stranger. So therefore, again, when they all has been all of that, there's no reason to treat one with such a strong attachment and treat another one with such strong dislike and aversion and someone indifference. So with that, again, understanding, we try to develop sense of equanimity. So it is very important to develop sense of equanimity at the very beginning. If your mind has more equanimity, then on the basis of equanimity, when you cultivate the love and compassion, it's easy to expand to all sentient beings. If your mind is not equal, even with that equanimity, when your mind is biased, uneven, then it is hard to extend the love and compassion to all sentient beings. So therefore, first, meditation on equanimity. And then, in some of them, so whether any those different methods that we discuss, whichever method you follow or meditation, you start with equanimity. And once you have good foundations or even mind of equanimity, on the basis of that, then you try to develop love and compassion. So in terms of equalizing exchanging self with others method, the first is equalizing, meditation on equalizing, the point of equalizing. What does that mean, equalizing? And that means, why do we cherish ourselves? Why we try to achieve happiness? Why do we try to achieve our happiness? Why we try to avoid pain and suffering? In our whole life, that is all it is. Our life is about how can we achieve happiness. Of course, there might be different opinion, different view on what the happiness is, what kind of happiness. But basically, we all try to achieve happiness, improve our happiness. We all try to avoid pain, sufferings, reduce and free from pain and suffering. That is all it is. even the whole system that runs the countries or the world is built on that to do that. How to improve the happiness of the human beings, how to decrease and overcome the suffering of human beings, and more than that, also animals. Why that is, and so because innately, naturally, innately, without being trained, without being that, innately, spontaneously, we want to be happy and we do not want suffering. As simple as that. It wasn't been taught in the school. It wasn't been taught by our parent, anyone, but the moment you are born, you want to be happy. You wish to be happy and you don't want suffering. Even the young, newly born child, that is how when they feel suffering, they try to avoid that. They try to escape that. They try to free from that. And they want the happiness, something that gives. And so that is that and you have that innate, we have that innate, that innate feeling of inspiration or the wish to be happy and not to suffer. And on the basis of that, we try to do that. And we have right to be happy and not to suffer. We have a right to be happy and not to suffer. So now we try to understand that same to others. Not only I have the innate wish to be happy and not to suffer, each and every sentient beings have same innate wish to be happy and not to suffer. We all are equal in that. It's not that I have exception, that I have that and they don't have that. Nor I have the only right to be happy and not to suffer. Each and every sentient beings have right to be happy and not to suffer, equally. So we all are equal in that way. We all are same and equal in that way. So that is the meditation, equalizing self with others. That's what it means. Equalizing self with others means through such meditations, you try to have this understanding and feeling we all are equal, same on that level, in that way. I think intellectual level, I think we all understand. I think we all agree. But in terms of feeling, we don't feel that every day. We don't feel that way. That is because we haven't done enough meditation, quantum practice. If we continue to do practice, meditation, contemplation over the time, you will start to feel more and more of that. More and more of that, instead of seeing differences between others and myself, you try to see and feel more and more same, more and more equal. So that's the first point, equalizing self with others. That is why it is called equalizing exchanging self with others, even that title, of that particular meditation technique. The first point of meditation is that feeling. And it is important to focus at the moment, at the moment we focus too much on superficial differences. Our mind focus too much on superficial differences. He or she looks different to me. He or she thinks different than me. He or she believes different than me. based on appearance, you know, how you look, how they look, color, skins, all of that, shape. If not that, then again, we see difference in how he or she thinks and how we think, the differences, what he or she believe, what we believe, the differences, whether in political view, whether it's a spiritual view, whether it's in social view, you know. So that is problem. We focus too much on those differences. Based on focus on those differences, then we create this gap. We create this gap. Instead of feeling one, same, equal, we feel different. You and me, them and us. We create that kind of, you know, gap, differences, because we focus too much on that. And because of that, sometimes politicians use that to create more divisions and more separate. They use that for their political gain because they know that we think that way. They understand our mind. And they know this is the way that I can create that divisions. Through that divisions, that I can get the vote. And so you know, of course, some does that very openly and very clearly. Some does very subtle way. Sometimes we are not aware they are doing it, but they do in subtle way. But a lot of times they do that because that is how our mind works at the moment. Because we create that. So that is, we don't have to put effort to do that. It just comes, see and feel that way. It's like that I'm putting an effort to create that differences, but it just, you know. And so now when we study and we learn, we practice, even though, you know, that kind of, even though there's appearance of such differences on that superficial level, on outside, on superficial level, but we try to go to the deeper level. See, we all are same, equal in wanting to be happy and not wanting to be suffer, not want to suffer. That is same, equal, all of us from the very birth. All others we learn later, you know, from the society, from the environment. But this very basic innate feeling of wanting to be happy and not to suffer, everyone's born with that, not being taught by others. That's innate, that's natural, and everyone has the right to pursue that. Everyone has the right to pursue the right to be happy, not to suffer, and pursue that. And so on that fundamental level, from the very birth, we all are equal and same in that way. And so here the meditation is focused on that. Focus on that. And if we focus on that and if we meditate, contemplate over the time, then even when you see the superficial differences, it doesn't affect you because you have this feeling of same and equal on that fundamental level from the depth. Because we don't have that feeling at the moment from the depth of that, then, you know, when someone just says whether it's true or not true, how that person's have a kind of crazy belief, ideas, view, than yourself, then you think that person is strange, weird, and weird, whatever,
Weird.
weird, weird, you know. So, and so, so then it creates the divisions. It creates the distance. You create a distance. Mm. As Shantideva explained, on superficial levels, our limbs are different. My hand is not my feet, leg. My head is not my hand. There are different part of those different limbs are different part of the body, and they have their own functioning on that. But at the same time, they all are one part of one body. So you have to take care of the whole body. You cannot neglect one because they are different. Because when it is damaged to one of the limb, it affects the other limbs. Because they are connected, interconnected, When you have problem with your liver, it affects many other parts of the organ, many part of that, or your heart, or any of those organs or the limbs. In the same way, now as Shantideva says, even though on superficial level, there are differences, but on fundamental level, we all are like that one body, one family. Mm. Mm. And therefore, you have to take care of all of them instead of just one part of the body. And it is, I think it is so evidence or so clear, especially in modern world, with all the information that we have. Even though, of course, not only this country, in many countries, there is call for like America first, or whatever country it is about taking yourself and kind of not taking the others, neglecting, ignoring. But that doesn't help. That doesn't work in reality. When there is instability in Europe, this country, no matter how you try to isolate, you cannot isolate. You will feel that economically, politically, in so many every way. Emotionally, when there is instability in these countries, other countries, even they try to ignore and don't try to pretend they don't feel it, they feel they cannot stop that. Because interconnected, interrelated, politically, economically, socially, everything. A lot of problem here is having because of many parts of the countries, because there's a problem in other countries. And when that is not being solved, the effect is felt in so many different ways. COVID is one good example of that. You know, in terms of health. The same when there is a recession, depressions, economically in one of the continent, it is felt by others. And when there is instability, it's felt by others. Not only the actual place, country itself, but all over the world. So it's like, when you have problem with the feet, and when your hand is good, then ignoring this is not hand problems and it's feet, but when you're fit, then it will affect your hand eventually. So with such, so therefore taking care of each part of the body is taking care of the body itself, and it helps the whole body, not just one, everyone, all it support everyone. Same, when you take care of all beings, your own happiness, your own well-being is taken care of, because you are part of that society, you are part of that world. So that is where the point is here. Like in Shantideva, there is some kind of in meditation or mental discussions, kind of mental debate, others' problem is not my problem. Why should I take care of them? And then he gave an example. He used example. The problem of hand is not the legs problem. Problem of the legs is not the hand problem. But when there is a prick in your pain in your leg or feet because the thorn prick, your hand will try to pull it because there's connection between that. It's not isolated. When your one hand is damaged, then your other hand had to do more job to compensate that, or other part of the bodies have to do over time, over the limit. It affects them. So therefore, indirectly, others' problem is your problem. Others' suffering is your suffering. Indirectly, it comes back. And he used another analogy, example, thinking is like you cannot ignore because others' problem is your not direct problem. It doesn't come to you directly now, but it will come indirectly after time. And he used example, we plan for the futures, even though you are not experiencing all the possibility, pain, suffering, challenges that you might face later, but you still try to protect that now. You are not experiencing those now. Let's say, when I'm getting old, all the possibilities that my health and all those different possibilities, I'm not experiencing any of them now, but because I could experience all of that, I try to plan all of that so that I don't go through that. Same way, others' problem does not come direct to you immediately, but in long term, it will come back. And that is what we see in the world. COVID, when it was happening in China, we thought, oh, we are not going to come. Relax, do you get it? The country got so relaxed. Is their problem? Is going to be there? And it has started come to Europe, still within it's not going to come this country. Eventually it came. Eventually it came. And that is same with the instability in the different part of the world, economically, all of that. Sometimes it takes time to feel the effect of that. Sometimes it might take, in some places, sometimes it comes immediately, and sometimes it takes time, but then it does come, it does effect. And so therefore, that is why in a Bodhisattva's attitude is that, when you work for the well-being of other sentient beings, your own well-being taken care of, because you are part of that world. When the whole families is doing well, happy, you are happy. When some member of the family is struggling, not only they are struggling directly, rest of the family is affected by that. Isn't it? Because we all are connected as a family. Even though I'm not having my health issue, but one of my siblings, my parent, or anyone is having struggles with a health issue or any other issues, struggles and a lot of problem, a lot of pain, suffering. Even I don't want to get involved, but I cannot. I do feel the pain. I do feel the pain because of part of that. And so, but when everyone's doing well, when they are well and doing that, it makes me happy. You are also, it also makes you. So similarly, that's the whole, just to give you example, a small family to the bigger family of the whole humanity, bigger family of the whole sentient beings. Therefore, as Laman Tsongkhapa said in Lamrim, the cherishing thought for others, such as the bodhicitta, the cherishing thought for others is such, even though you think of helping and benefiting others, but you get the most benefit from that. Even though your intentions, motivation is to help and benefit others, when you have that such as bodhicitta mind, cherishing thought for others, even though that is the cases, but in reality, you get the most benefit from that. Even though your intention is never to help benefit yourself, but there's connection between that. It's like you plant a fruit tree. You don't care about the fruit. You just plant a tree. You just want to have a tree. But whether you want or not, it will get a fruit because it's a fruit tree. That's what it is. Similarly, so therefore, equalizing. So we are talking about equalizing self-reality. It's important to really think that someone you dislike very much, okay? Think of someone you dislike very much. Whether you hate that person or not, whether you have angry or not, but someone you dislike very much. Someone you dislike very much. Think of that person. Think that person not different from me. I want to be happy and do not want suffering. I'm trying all my best to be happy and to avoid those sufferings. In whatever way I think I can do that, that person doing the same thing. That person also just want to be happy and not to suffer, just like myself. And that person, whatever he or she is acting in different way, the reason is that he or she is trying to protect their happiness. That's all they're trying to do. We might have different, that is not a way to protect your happiness. That there might be difference, But if you go deeper, the reason they are behaving in such way, they are acting such way is because they don't want suffering. They are trying to avoid the suffering, and they want to achieve the happiness. They want to protect their happiness. That's all they're trying to do. And if you can connect, if you can feel, if you can connect on that level, you might not feel so negative about that person. You know, you might not dislike so much. You know, you might not get so much anger and hatred to that person. You know, to be able to connect, you know, human to human level on that level. You know, not focusing on the superficial differences, but focusing on that, you know, fundamental on human level, human to human, or another, if you go deeper than that, from Buddhist point of sentient being to sentient being level, you know. If you can feel it, you might not agree with their behavior, their actions, whatever that they are doing. But while you do not agree with that, while you disagree with that, but at the same time, you can feel as another human beings. Even you might even feel compassion without disliking and having so much strong hatred or hateful thoughts. And that is the whole point, you know. Just because we feel someone on human to human level, and just because we feel compassion on someone, it doesn't mean we agree with everything they do. I mean, there is a very clear example of parents with their children. The parents love, compassions, affections, sense of care for the, especially when they're younger. I think as you get older, then we have more and more conflict, both from the children's side and from the parent side. You know, the experience might change a little bit. But when you are still young, 2, 3 years, you know, until maybe you become teenager, you know, or maybe some of them even early, but still when you are tiny, you know, growing up to only 3, 4, you know, the parents love, compassion, almost unconditional, you know, so much there. And even though there is so much love, compassion, caring, affection, but parents will not allow whatever children do, you know. They will not agree and allow whatever children do, and not for themselves, for the well-being of children themselves. You know, if they are doing something that is harmful, hurtful for them or others, they will try to stop. They don't, not only they will not disagree and not allow them to, they will try to stop them from doing that. Does that mean they don't have compassion? Because of the compassion, that is why they are doing that. So therefore, that is another, we have to differentiate that, you know. Sometimes when you hear, oh, we have to have compassion for your enemy, you have to have feeling for that, then you starting, or that means maybe we allow them to do whatever their harmful thing they are doing. It doesn't mean that. You have that feeling. But when it comes to the action, if it's a harmful actions, not only you disagree with that, if there's a way to stop, you try to stop them doing that. But that doesn't mean you should not have compassion. Oh. So yeah, I'm still stuck on the first point, equalizing. But I think also that is the most important, because when you are stuck on first point, then even we try to do the second point, third point, fourth point, still it is not effective because you don't have the good foundations of the first step, the first point. The stronger foundation you have, the next point you do meditation, they become more, more effective. And that is the first point, equalizing self with others. The second point of meditations, in that meditations that you see is, meditating on shortcoming or disadvantage of selfish attitude. Because selfish attitude is the most obstacles or interference, internal interference obstacle to develop true love, compassion, bodhicitta mind. These two are the bodhicitta mind is cherishing for others. When you have selfish attitude, self-centeredness, then you cannot have true sense of cherishing for others, true love, compassion, and bodhicitta for others. And so you have to reduce and overcome the selfish attitude, the self-centeredness. Where the selfish attitude, self-centeredness, where you feel, the world should be centered around you. We might not say that, but that is how we feel. I don't have to love everyone, but everyone has to love me. I don't need to like everyone, but everyone needs to like me. Interesting. Why should I like him? Because he is such a, rascal. Why should I like him? He is such a mean, unkind, or arrogant, for whatever reasons. Why should I like him? But when it comes to us, oh, he doesn't like me. She doesn't like me. We feel hurt. We feel like everyone has to like us. When we hear someone doesn't like you, you get hurt. Even someone you don't know. And then someone says, do you know that person dislike you, doesn't like you? You get hurt. Isn't it? You have never met that person, never seen that person. And then someone, your friends, do you remember that you saw that guy there in that time? Or you don't remember, you remember that guy doesn't like you. He said or she said that this and that doesn't like you. And you get disappointed, hurt, harmed. Why? Because we want everyone to like you. Everyone to like you. When we don't think deeply, it doesn't feel like, no, I don't feel I don't feel like everyone has to like me. Just my family, friends, I like them to like me, but I don't care everyone like me or not. But deep inside, you like everyone to like you, because otherwise someone you don't know anyone, and when you hear that person dislike you, why would you be hurt? Why do you feel uncomfortable? Because you want even those people to like you. So that's where you say, with that selfish attitude, self-centeredness, you want the world to revolve around you. That's what selfish attitude. You want to be the center of the world. And everything should follow the way you want. How you want, the way you want, not the other way around. It shouldn't be the way do you want or how you want. It should be the way I want and how I want. If I don't get the way I want, how I want, I get disappointed, unhappy. if it's not revolve around me or I, world around me, if it's about revolve around others, then even things doesn't, it's not the way I want, it's not how I want, but I'm okay with it. This is what you want, this is how you want. I'm also happy with that. I don't have to be disappointed. I don't have to be hurt. I don't have to feel uncomfortable. But when it is around this selfish attitude, then, you are not considerations. You only think of you. You don't think of me. You want the way you want to. You don't support the way I want, how I want. And that's the conflict, starting on the conflict. That is clear sign. This is a clear sign of because of that selfish attitude, self-centeredness. When we don't meditate, when we don't contemplate deeply, when you hear, that you want the center to revolve or that it doesn't, how can that be? But if you think deeply, then that is what it is. That's what it is. And all the problem in the world, conflict problem, is the clashes of those selfish attitudes, self-centeredness, the ego. That is what it is. Lot of time, superficial level, it seems we have conflict because we have different ideas, different views, how to do things, how to run things, whether it's a country, whether it's a state, whether it's our family, or whether it's our organizations. Sometimes we feel we have this conflict in this particular world, country, state, or organizations, or even a family, or two individuals. We feel we have conflict because of we have different view, different ideas. That's not the truth. It's not because of a different view, different ideas. It is because of our ego and selfish attitude. If you don't have if we don't have ego, if we don't have selfish attitude, then we can have totally different view, different idea, and without feeling any bad feeling to each other. We can talk, we can discuss openly, respectfully, without being hurt, being disappointed. And when there is no feeling of being disappointed or hurt and disrespectful, all these things, even if we have totally different view, that wouldn't be a problem. It is only we can discuss and find a solutions way without being conflict. But when that our selfish attitude, self-centeredness, our ego get involved, and then that become conflict. It is not just a different view, different ideas, different opinion, but it become in conflict because we started to have a bad feeling to each other. Because I feel hurt, because I feel disappointed, because I felt maybe disrespectful, because I felt that I was not taking considerations, because I felt maybe I wasn't taken seriously, whatever those different feelings. And that feelings comes because of that ego, that selfish attitude. Because of that, our selfish attitude, self-centeredness, ego, we feel like that others have to respect us all the time. Not only respect, we want sometimes, the way we want is more than what other can give. able to do. One, no matter how much respect they try to be, you are not enough. You feel like they didn't do enough. No matter how they try to make you happy, you are still disappointed. So there's all this, we call that selfish attitude, self-centeredness. So therefore, I was saying the shortcoming of the selfish attitude is that all the conflict that we see on individual level, from one person to another person, as a family, within the family, within the state, within the country, within the world, all the conflict and the sufferings, problem, pain that arises because of such conflict and problem is due to all this selfish attitude, self-centeredness. In short, as Shantideva said, all the misfortunes, all the sufferings, all the problem that is in the world is the result of the selfish attitude, the self-centeredness. And it is clear if we really give enough time to reflect, contemplate on deeper level, honestly, it is true. It is that because of that selfish attitude, that self-centeredness. That's why we have problem with others. If you don't have that selfish attitude, self-centeredness, other person might have problem with you, but from your side, you have no problem with that person. Do you get it? We cannot control the other persons. From their side, they can have problem. They can see problem. They can feel problem. But from your side, regardless how they feel, from your side, you don't have any problem. Okay, so we'll have a 10-minute break.
Okay.
So maybe if you need to again.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I had to go.
Yeah.
It's my medicine. So, 2:11. So 2:20. 1.
So you meditate on the shortcoming or selfish attitude, because the more you understand that more deeply, more profoundly, how that is the root problem, our root of our problems, then you put more effort, work more, with more effort to reduce that, to overcome that. And if you put more effort and reduce that, and there's less of selfish attitude, then it is more easy to cultivate the love, compassion, both to the mind, because and again, it's very deep inside. So when we study the Dharma talk, or when we discuss, it seems to make sense. But in our everyday life, the moment we have conflict, it doesn't occur as my selfish attitude. It's you. Why we have a problem, why we have conflict. It's your attitude, your actions, your behavior. That is how we feel immediately. That's how we respond immediately. Instead of saying, even having caution, could it be my selfish attitude? Could it be my self-centeredness? Could it be my ego? We don't even have that cautions. We are having a problem, we are having a conflict because of your actions, because of your behavior, because of your attitude. You did that, you said that, you behave that way, this is that. Sometimes we say, even we don't say, in your mind, that is what you are thinking. We hardly think. We hardly, in that moment, or even afterwards, we hardly think is manifestations of my selfish attitude, my self-centeredness, my ego. Forget totally saying is my selfish attitude. Even we don't even have that question mark. Could it be my ego? Could it be my selfish attitude? Could it be my self-centeredness? We don't even question that. You know, so it's a very different. Just having an intellectual understanding when we are studying, learning, hearing, then actually really put into practice, meditation practice, so that you actually, whenever something, conflict arises, problem arises, instead of totally blaming others for their actions, behavior, attitude, whatever, saying, oh, it's a manifestation of my selfish attitude, my self-centeredness. Even he behaved that way, even he act that way, even he have that attitude. If I don't have that selfish attitude, that ego, self-centeredness, I wouldn't feel the way I'm feeling now. I wouldn't feel the hurt that I'm feeling now. I wouldn't feel the disappointment that I'm feeling now. If I'm not feeling that disappointment, that hurt, whatever feeling I'm feeling, it wouldn't be a problem for me. It wouldn't be a conflict for me. It is a conflict for me, from my point of view, from my side, it is a conflict. It's a problem because of my own, that selfish attitude. So again, with each of those points, intellectually understanding, I mean, we don't struggle that understanding, but the problem is that not having ingrained or integrated or apply in our practice meditation every day. So then, you know, in that moment, it's all in your brain, not in your feeling, in your mind, you know. And so anyway, so again, with each of those points, you need to really practice meditate. And again, I mean, we know even to develop shamatha or meditative concentrations, you know, where you can concentrate without any distraction for hours and days, even to achieve that, we know is not easy, it requires a lot of effort, a lot of practice. And of course, in the scriptures, it says, for some people, if they put effort, those shamatha, they could develop within the 6 months sometime, you know. But something like bodhicitta, it requires much more effort, much more time, much more practice. You know, recently I've heard about that monk. He was our classmate from different monastery. I'm from Serache in South India. He's from Serame. And then, you know, after he finished, he didn't finish the whole studies, but after he finished most of the study, he went in the mountains to do retreat. And we have heard from many others that he had achieved shamatha over the years. And just recently, I met another monk, a geshe, that who directly or indirectly knew that and he told, I don't know, some of his friends, that it took him, I think, 2 years to develop the shamatha. It took him 8 years to develop the bodhicitta, even after having developed the shamatha. So that is, of course, it might not be same for everyone's, because, it depends on many conditions. But even like for him, even after he first developed shamatha, even with that, it took some. So that what I'm trying to say is, it required a lot of practice, time to develop bodhicitta mind. So we don't put so much effort, time, and we expect the result. We expect the result, and when the result is not there, then we started to doubt the technique itself, the meditation itself, so anyway, so that was and the third point is meditating on the advantage or benefit of cherishing thought for others. So again, as Shandeva explained, every happiness, embody the ultimate happiness, whether it's a sensory pleasure or happiness, or whether it's a mental happiness, they all come through cherishing for others, cherishing for others. The ultimate happiness of fully enlightenment come to cherishing thought for others through the practice of the bodhisattvas, practice of 6 perfections, 10 perfections, 4 means of gathering, helping sentient beings. And all those practices are rooted in cherishing thought for others. They all are rooted in the bodhicitta mind, the cherishing thought for others. Without bodhicitta mind, there's no way to enter the bodhisattva path and progress on the bodhisattva path and the bhumi and achieve enlightenment. The gateway to enter the bodhisattva path is the bodhicitta. When you have bodhicitta mind, then that is when you enter the bodhisattva path. And once you enter the bodhisattva path, then you begin to make progress over the time with the practice, progressing, from 4 path, path accumulation, preparation, seeing, meditations, and then, again, progressively progressing through the 10 bhumis, and within that, cultivating more and more spiritual realizations, higher and higher level of spiritual realizations, and cultivating, more and more mental bliss, happiness, inner peace, higher level of inner peace, as well as cultivating more and more skill and means to be help and benefit to others. So all this, one achieve all this on the basis of cherishing thought for others. It all come through that. Even the happiness of liberations and arhat also come through cherishing thought for others. Because arhat, one cannot achieve liberation and arhat without the practice of Tirihaya training, without the perfections of Tirihaya training, and moral discipline, meditative concentration, and wisdom. And the very foundations of those three practice is the moral discipline, ethical moral discipline. And that moral ethical discipline is very much rooted in cherishing thought for others. Cherishing thought for others. The practice to perfect the practice of avoiding or staying restraining, from harming and hurting others, such as by taking life of others, by stealing others, and so forth. Those moral discipline, why you try to avoid, why you try to restrain from taking life of others, because you understand others' life is precious, just as your life is precious. You cherish others' life. Not only you cherish your life, because you cherish others' life. And that is the cherishing thought for others. Sense of concern, compassion, love, and cherishing for others. Same. Why do you refrain from stealing others? Because again, just as you feel hurt, pain, upset when someone steals your things, you cherish others' feelings. You cherish others' feelings. You don't want to hurt others. You don't want to take someone's things. And so again, the basis for all this practice of moral discipline, such as, on a very basic level, refrain from 10 non-virtuous actions, those practices are based on cherishing thought for others. And that is also very, the foundations and principal practice of the Buddhists. Buddha said, try to help benefit others as much as you can. On minimum level, even you cannot help, don't hurt and harm others. That is the minimum level. If you cannot help, do not hurt and harm others. Do not create more suffering and pain to others. They already are suffering, already too much. Do not create more pain and suffering, hurt and harm others. That is the very basic level, and that is the way the practice of moral discipline, such as refraining from 10 non-virtuous actions, is based on that. If you cannot help, at least do not engage in the actions that hurt and harm others. And refraining from such actions. So therefore, even so without that perfections of that, without completing the practice of moral discipline, then you cannot achieve the other two practice and complete that. Without that, there's no arhat happiness or arhat liberation. And then even the happiness of higher rebirth, the higher rebirth is a result of practice of moral discipline on minimum. And such as precious human rebirth, the practice of moral discipline that is supported the practice of generosity and the pure dedication and so forth. So again, it depends on the practice of moral discipline. And that moral discipline, as I mentioned, is very much rooted in cherishing thought for others. So it comes to cherishing thought for others. all the happiness that we experience, enjoy in our life, sensory pleasures, mental happiness, they're all a result of our karma. Of course, there is contributions of external factors, conditions, as well as our karmic potentials to experience that. I always say combination of two things, karmic potentials as well as the external conditions. Even all the external conditions are there, if you don't have the karmic potential, you will not experience it, good or bad. Even you have the karmic potential to experience good or bad, but if the external conditions are not there, you will not experience that. So it's combinations of two things, two causes. Internal cause. Internal cause is the karmic potential, karmic seed, and then external conditions coming together, create different experiences. I feel the message or the concept or the philosophy of the karma that is presented by the Buddha, that is taught by the Buddha, seems to be the right middle way, which Buddha always, all his presentation in all lifestyle, everything, he tried to present a middle way. And I feel that karma is the same in the way his presentations. Before Buddha, there was some concept of karma by some of early masters as well. But sometimes their presentations, I feel like it is a little bit too extreme, not the middle way. Is the way it's presented is sometimes it's presented as is destiny, fixed. You can't do anything about it. I feel that a little too extreme, Everything's what happens in your life, you have no choice. Everything's been fixed by the past karma. So then that means you cannot make choices. You cannot, on the other side, our modern materialist world, I feel like it's also go to another extreme. They only talk about external conditions. They don't talk about the internal conditions, the karmic internal conditions. Only talk about the external, physical external conditions. And I find also that it doesn't answer a lot of questions. It cannot answer a lot of questions. So the Buddha's explanations is there is internal cause and condition, and from the past karmic seed, karmic potential, and immediate cause and conditions, which that we have choice whether you engage in that immediate cause condition or you choose not to engage in that. And so the presentations of, the past, previous karma, karmic seed, and that karmic seed can be manifested or ripened by depending on what kind of immediate cause and conditions come around or gather around. So it's a combination of two things. And yeah. So I feel that is more kind of middle way, And if we just talk about immediate cause, condition, external condition, if we don't talk about the internal karmic conditions, then there's so much unanswered, so many things, in our life, you know. You see many instances, whether it's a car crash, whether it's a plane crash, or whether it's in a natural disasters, all of that. When you look from the external condition, there's no way someone can survive. But sometimes, somehow they survive. They cannot explain how someone could survive in such conditions. So in such cases, the external conditions were there, but internal conditions, karmic condition was not there, and somehow they survive. I think a lot of time we can use different terms. Sometimes you hear miracles. It's a miracle he or she survived in such conditions. It's almost impossible, but become possible. What makes it miracle? How is that miracle? You know, or we can say he or she's lucky. What is that make him or she lucky, and not the others lucky? How did the other one pass? Other died, and how she survived? You know, you have stories about young child, fall away from 6 stories, 7 stories. Nothing happened. Not even broken. You know. And how is it possible? But it happens sometimes. And I was looking like, even in the COVID time, it's interesting, couple, one who has a COVID, and they didn't know they had COVID, and they stayed together, they sleep together, they eat together. Somehow the other person didn't get. Of course, most people will get, but in some situations. And that person met with someone only once, and the other person got. Do you get it? External condition wise, that person he met only once for a short time, and he or she has COVID, and he or she lived with someone so long for many days together all the time, still the others didn't get it. External conditions were all there to get, but something was missing. Internal conditions. And you hear that kind of story quite often, COVID and many other cases. Sometimes you eat the same poison, bad food, and someone gets sick, and someone doesn't get sick.
Hey, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, who?
Me and you, the last time we went hiking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
you didn't get sick.
There you go.
I got very, very sick. We drank the same water. Actually, I was a little more used to that water than me, I think.
Yeah, in some cases it could be that.
Not the karma. It's
In some cases it could be I'm exposed to some kind of bacteria and but some cases it could be that, but it is not always like case. Like someone that we grew up together in same environment, okay, such as India, Nepal, and some of us, when we travel and when we same food, and then someone gets sick and someone doesn't get sick.
well, Spencer didn't get sick either, so I think it was the karma.
So so that is what I think. If it's just external conditions, then there is so many unanswered those, So I feel there is external condition and internal conditions, and So because we are talking about karma, because we are talking about all the our happiness, whether it's it comes from our karma. That was where it come from. And those karmas, there's a result of positive karma, virtuous karma. And the virtuous karma, positive karma are based on cherishing thought for others. You know, whereas negative karma are based on selfish attitudes. Because of selfish attitude, self-centeredness, then we engage something harmful actions, hurtful actions, and that become the cause of suffering. Whereas due to, cherishing thought for others, not wanting to hurt, harm others, on the basis of that, and wanting to help others, benefit others, on the basis of that, wanting to do something good for others, and so forth, then we engage in a different virtuous practice. And through those different virtues, wholesome actions or practice or actions, then we create positive karma or virtuous karma. As a result of such virtuous karma, then we experience different happiness, different pleasure, whether it's within the samsara or beyond the samsara pleasure. And so again, all this happiness are rooted in the cherishing thought for others. That's where I was coming from. And as Shantideva said, he kind of summarized. He said, what is there much to talk about? Just look our experience and the experience of the Buddha. Just compare our experience and the experience of the Buddha. Why is there so much different? Why we continue to suffer, experience suffering, why we are still in samsara, and why we are still in samsara, continue to experience suffering. Why Buddha is no more in samsara, why he is not suffering, why he is having the ultimate happiness. Because he follow the cherishing thought for others, when we follow selfish attitude, self-centeredness. That is why. Different result. Even though at one time, Buddha and we were in the same situation. At one time, he was ordinary being like us in samsara. An ordinary sentient being just like us. But now, huge differences. Why? Because the Buddha followed the cherishing thought for others, practice that. Whereas we follow selfish attitude. That's why we have different results. So he said, so that clearly shows the two different results of those two different attitudes, the selfish attitude and attitude of cherishing for others. Yeah. So yeah, I think maybe I will conclude here today. If there's any questions, I can take comment questions.
Ruth might have a question.
Yes, please.
I find it easy to feel compassion for people I know, but I find it very difficult to feel compassionate toward public figures who who say hateful things and who try to divide the country. So how do you think that lack of compassion for that kind of person who lies and is hateful and makes fun of people, is the lack of compassion hurting me?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you asked the question, but I think maybe most of us feel similar that way. We didn't ask that question. You brought up the question, I think, but most people have same feelings. They might feel compassion, easy to feel compassion for a lot of other people, but they struggle to feel compassion for such as those public figures. And because of their attitude, because of their action, so forth. Definitely it is much more challenging. That is why even when we meditate on loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, and when we try to expand it, we start with someone who is easier. And then we expand to a little bit more difficult one. We start with someone who is very close to us, which we can feel compassion easily. Then slowly we try to expand that feeling of compassion even to someone like more like stranger, which is not very close to us. And then once we are able to feel compassion about that, then we extend that and to try to feel same feeling compassion even the most difficult persons, the person who we dislike most. And then once we are able to, through meditation again and again, once we are able to feel that, then we expand to all other sentient beings. That is how in meditation, how you start with starting point with easy, and then you expand it slowly to the more and more difficult. And so from again that we know it is not easy and difficult to feel compassion for such beings. But of course, if we cannot feel compassion for them, then it is our loss. It is our loss. Because of not being able to feel compassion, then we get disturbed by that person's actions, behavior, and that. When you see that person, when you hear that person, when you hear about that person, it disturbs your mind, agitate your mind. And so immediately it disturbs your mind, peaceful mind, calm mind. Secondly, then because of that, then we start to feel negative about that person's, sometimes maybe anger, sometimes maybe resentment, hateful, sometimes ill feelings, And so through having those different types of negative feelings, then we create negative karma. And sometimes not only we feel that, then we start to say negative things about that person's. And again, we create another level of negative karma through not only through the mind, also speech, So in that way, then of course there's a potential to create more negative karma and to disturb our mind, and also to weaken our compassion and love. We have the compassion seed, loving kindness seed, bodhicitta seed. And so when we have a negative feeling towards other beings, it's kind of weakening that potentials, And so there is, those are the loss that we lose by not being able to cultivate the compassion. But again, just as we want to have a compassion for everyone, it's not going to become easy. It requires a lot of effort and practice. Yes, please.
When I find myself in that exact situation, struggling with people like that, I find it helpful sometimes to remind myself of how much suffering they're laying up for themselves in the future by their actions in this life, and that, I think of their future suffering, and that kind of helps a little bit.
Absolutely.
Generate compassion.
Not only future suffering. I mean, if you kind of observe the person's behavior and
They're not
action,
happy.
suffering so much, to get up in the middle of the night and message and all these kind of endless, it means that person unable to sleep, being so disturbed, so unhappy, so much suffering. And the more suffering, then the more rude that he seems to become. And that is normal for ordinary people. When we suffer, we tend to hurt other people more. When you are happy, we tend not to hurt other people. When we are more happy in your life, when you are more relaxed, you do less harmful things. when our mind is disturbed, when we are unhappy, and then we tend to do things more which are hurtful to others. And even with just his actions and behavior, I think you can see how much he's suffering. Sleepless night and constantly driving crazy. If we had some kind of camera to really see what is happening in the mind, really driving crazy. And so definitely suffering so much, that's why even this life, and of course, if we talk about karma and future life, incredible. So again, definitely reflecting, contemplating on that can be helpful, for sure. Then of course, we are not sure, but such person might have some mental issue as well, illness. If they really check it and see, they might have some issue, which means again, they have no control.
But you can have compassion and still take action to stop the bad things that that person is doing.
Absolutely. And that was the example that I was giving about the parent and the child.
Yes.
Yeah. And even in Bodhisattva practice, one of the vows within the Bodhisattva vows is that when you have the ability to stop someone from engaging in harmful, even when you need a little bit of harsh actions, if you don't do that, then it's a breaking vow. So you should do that. But the motivations should always be true compassion, bodhicitta mind. The motivation, it shouldn't be anger, ill feeling, resentment, grudges, those negative feelings. The motivation should be compassion, bodhicitta, and in such, then if you don't, when you have the ability to stop and not doing is breaking a vow, so you should be, you should take the action to stop some such harmful actions. Yeah.
I had a question or a comment.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I guess one of the things that I try and do is evaluate where I am emotionally or mentally or in a situation and try to decide whether I can engage in it or not engage in it. I mean, sometimes you're right, you feel strong and happy and kind and generous, and other times I don't feel that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that is also normal. Until you reach certain points. In bodhisattvas, there's called non-returning bodhisattvas. Or even with others, the path to arhat also there's. So there are certain point we reach certain level of practice. Once you reach there, then no coming back. It only get better and increase and get better and better. But until we reach that point, certain days, certain weeks, certain months, certain years, we have more enthusiasm, more strong, our practice is good, and then there are certain days, weeks, months, or even years when we don't feel so much enthusiasm, so much inspiration, and we lose our practice, or we don't feel so good about it. It's a natural and normal, and I think we shouldn't, again, as I mentioned before, we shouldn't be too harsh on ourselves again in such. We all go through that process, and it's a part of learning in our path. It's not always going up and up and up. There are days when it's up, seems like it's up, and then there are days when it go down. There are days when it's more even, and so that is part of for learning, is part of growth, is part of the journey, is part of the practice.
Thank you.
So then, yeah, we can do the dedications.
I know.
So again, the first two verses, I'm going to chant in Tibetan. You can join me, or you can just read the English translation there by yourself. But basically try to chanting, reciting, you know, it is the words are just a mean to feel it, you know, from your heart. So dedicating all our virtues. Yawadi nyudo ta lama sangye do ne do chi kyan ma le pa te sa la we ba sho chang cho sem cho lem bo che ma ge pa na ge kyo che ge wa nyam ba me ba yam kong le kong du pe wa sho kare ra we kor we shin kam de and down there. Is that what you have?
We have the new short long line.
Okay. Yeah, you can recite.
The wish granting, wish fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, the incomparably kind and St. Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled.
Then Lama Sopa Rinpoche's.
Fearless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddha, victorious Losang Father and Sons along the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge and infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness to accomplish this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of victorious one's teaching, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness urged, and from other living beings who suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss! Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of victorious ones, may the smile of reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciple.
Thank you very much and have a wonderful rest of day and see you tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe-la. Thank you so much.
Okay, we have one more session tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Anyone's welcome. So if you have friends that might want to come, we weren't able to come today, that is fine with us. And yeah, I don't know. We might go out for lunch after, or well, Roy's hosting Geshe for dinner, but we might go out to lunch tomorrow after teaching. So if we can go out, if you're interested in going out to lunch with all of us, let me know in the morning and we'll make an arrangement. Go somewhere.
Nice to meet you.
I know I've met before.
Do you remember your room number at the Green Hotel?
Oh, really?
I don't either.
I was only there a few months ago. What's that? Well, make sure, we get your.
You want to switch off the recording?
Yeah. Give a little sign up out there. I'm glad you can make it.